God separated you for protection. Their body couldn't handle the truth. There is a peculiar mercy in separation that most people misunderstand. They assume it is punishment or loss or abandonment. Yet often it is none of these things. It is rescue disguised as absence. It is protection clothed in silence. When God separates, he does not do so carelessly, nor does he act out of impulse. He removes because remaining would destroy what he intends to preserve. You are not taken away because you were weak, but because you were becoming strong in a place that could not survive truth, and truth, once awakened, exerts a pressure that false structures cannot bear. You may have noticed how quiet the separation felt at first. No thunder, no dramatic collapse, no public exposure, just a slow, deliberate loosening of ties, as though an unseen hand were gently unfastening knots that had been tightened for years. This is often how divine protection works. It does not announce itself. It simply removes you from danger before danger realizes it has lost control. And in that removal, something remarkable begins to happen on the other side. What once fed on your presence now struggles to regulate itself without you. A narcissistic spirit depends heavily on reflection. It must see itself mirrored in admiration, fear, confusion, or submission. It feeds not on love, but on reaction. When God separates you, that mirror is taken away, and without reflection, the false self begins to fracture. This is not merely emotional or psychological. The fracture travels downward into the body itself. For the body, though it can be trained to perform lies, cannot sustain them indefinitely. Eventually, it begins to confess what the mouth refuses to admit. You may wonder why the body would bear such a burden. After all, is it not the soul that sins, the mind that schemes, the heart that intends? Yet the body is the faithful servant of the inner life. It carries stress, deception, envy, rage, and fear like hidden weights. When truth is suppressed for too long, the body becomes the ledger where unpaid debts are recorded. Sleeplessness, agitation, sudden illness, erratic behavior, physical decline. These are not random occurrences. They are the outward signs of an inward war that has lost its balance. When you were present, you absorbed much of that imbalance. You regulated their chaos simply by existing near it. You listened, soothed, endured, explained, excused, and adjusted. You became, without realizing it, a stabilizing force in a structure built on instability. God did not separate you to punish them, but to protect you from being consumed by a role you were never meant to play. And once removed, the system that relied on you began to collapse under the weight of its own dishonesty. There is something profoundly unsettling about truth to those who have lived by illusion. Truth is not loud at first, it is heavy. It presses inward, it removes options, it demands alignment, and for someone who has constructed an identity around control rather than coherence, truth feels like suffocation. The body reacts accordingly. It tightens, panics, deteriorates, lashes out, or shuts down. These reactions are not conscious choices. They are reflexes. The body responding to a reality it can no longer deny. You, meanwhile, may have felt guilt for leaving, even if you did not choose the separation yourself. Perhaps circumstances forced it. Perhaps clarity arrived suddenly. Perhaps peace began to feel possible only at a distance. Whatever the means, the separation was not accidental. God does not merely pull people away, he lifts burdens off them. And when he lifted you, he also lifted the illusion that your presence was harmless to you. You were carrying something that was never yours to carry. The most difficult truth for compassionate people to accept is that their kindness can become a shelter for another's refusal to change. By staying, you were unknowingly protecting them from the consequences of their own inner life. By leaving, you allowed reality to resume its work. This is why separation often triggers such dramatic physical responses in narcissistic individuals. It is not that you harmed them by going, it is that your absence removed the buffer between them and truth. Truth, once unbuffered, moves quickly. It travels through the nervous system, disturbs sleep, alters appetite, disrupts routines. The body begins to protest because it has been asked to maintain a fiction that no longer has external support. Imagine a stage actor forced to continue a performance after the audience has left and the lights have gone out. The gestures become exaggerated, the voice strained, the movements frantic. Eventually, Exhaustion sets in. The body cannot keep pretending when there is no one left to convince. This is not cruelty, it is consequence. And consequence is one of the most compassionate forces in existence, though it rarely feels that way at first. Consequence teaches what lectures cannot. It reveals what arguments fail to expose. God allows consequence not because he delights in suffering, but because suffering often succeeds where comfort has failed. You were removed so that consequence could speak uninterrupted. There is also a quieter reason for the separation, one that concerns you more than them. Prolonged exposure to narcissistic dynamics reshapes the nervous system. It trains you to anticipate moods, suppress instincts, doubt perceptions, and overfunction emotionally. God separates not only to stop the harm, but to allow your system to recalibrate. Peace cannot grow in soil constantly trampled by volatility. Healing requires space, and space requires distance from what injures. As you step into that space, you may notice something strange. While you are regaining clarity and strength, they appear to be unraveling. This contrast can be disorienting. You may question whether you were truly the problem after all. You may feel tempted to return out of pity, nostalgia, or responsibility. But understand this clearly: returning would not heal them. It would only delay the truth their body is already processing. The body's confession is relentless because it is honest. It does not soften its message to preserve pride. It does not negotiate with ego. When the inner life is misaligned, the body eventually signals distress. This is why some people fall ill only after relationships end, or experience sudden anxiety when control is lost, or age rapidly once admiration disappears. These are not punishments sent from above. They are revelations allowed from within. You were separated because you were becoming too aware. Awareness is dangerous to false systems. It introduces choice, and once choice enters, control weakens. God saw that you were on the brink of either awakening fully or being diminished further. He chose your awakening. He chose to protect the part of you that was beginning to remember what peace feels like, what dignity requires, what love is not supposed to cost. There is a temptation to interpret their physical decline as vindication. Resist that temptation. This is not about revenge. It is about reality reasserting itself. You do not need to celebrate it, explain it, or intervene in it. Your role is not to interpret their suffering, but to continue your restoration. The separation was not the end of a story, but the end of an illusion. What follows is a reckoning that must unfold without your involvement. It may trouble you that their body is bearing what their conscience avoided, but this too is a kind of mercy. For the body's signals, though painful, are invitations to change. They are alarms, not sentences. Whether those alarms are heeded is not within your control. You were never meant to be their warning system. You were meant to be free. Freedom at first feels empty. It lacks the drama you grew accustomed to. It does not require constant vigilance. It allows silence. This can feel unsettling to someone conditioned by emotional intensity, but over time, that silence reveals itself as spacious rather than lonely. It becomes a place where truth can settle gently instead of crashing violently. God separated you not only to remove harm, but to introduce you to this quieter, sturdier way of being. And as you grow accustomed to that way, you may hear echoes from the past, news of their struggles, glimpses of their instability, reports of their physical distress. Each echo may test your resolve. Each may tempt you to interpret, diagnose, or rescue. But remember, you were removed for protection, not assignment. You are not responsible for how truth manifests in a body that resisted it for years. The truth they could not handle was not merely about you. It was about themselves. Your absence simply removed the distraction that kept that truth at bay. Now it rises unopposed, pressing outward through the only channel left available. And while this process is uncomfortable to witness from a distance, it confirms something important. The separation was necessary. The system could not survive honesty, and God chose honesty over harmony. There is a solemn dignity in accepting that some transformations occur only when you are no longer present. You, do not get to supervise them. You do not get to shape them. You are spared that burden. And in being spared, you are invited into a life less crowded by confusion, less dominated by managing another's inner chaos. This invitation is not loud, but it is persistent. It calls you forward, away from explanation and toward embodiment, toward living the truth rather than arguing for it. As you continue to move forward, you may begin to sense how deeply protection was woven into the separation, how moments that once drained you now feel distant, how your body too begins to recover, shedding tensions it carried in response to someone else's instability. This is not coincidence. Bodies recognize safety instinctively. They soften when danger leaves. They strengthen when vigilance is no longer required. And so the story continues, not toward a neat resolution, but toward an unfolding reality in which each person must face what remains when illusions are stripped away. You have been given distance, clarity, and time. They have been given truth, unfiltered and embodied. What each of you does with these gifts will determine what comes next, for truth does not end with exposure. It presses onward, asking to be lived, asking to be faced, asking to be integrated. And in this slow and relentless process, there are moments when the body trembles, when the mind resists, when the soul begins to realize that what was once hidden can no longer be carried in the same way, and that something fundamental must either change or continue to unravel under the weight of what has finally been revealed, and as that weight presses inward, it exposes the limits of pretense. Because pretense requires energy, and energy dries up when truth is no longer resisted, but merely endured. What happens next is rarely dramatic in the way stories prefer, yet it is profound in its quiet severity. The body does not collapse all at once, it frays. It sends small, persistent messages that something is wrong, that something has been ignored for too long. These messages are often dismissed at first, treated as inconveniences rather than warnings, but they accumulate, and accumulation is how reality insists on being heard. You may notice that even their attempts to regain control feel different now. Where once there was confidence, there is strain. Where once there was charm, there is desperation. The body reveals this before words ever do. Micro-expressions linger too long. Gestures lose their ease. The voice tightens or wavers. These are not moral failures, they are physiological truths surfacing in plain sight. A body aligned with deception cannot remain relaxed when the audience is gone. Meanwhile, you are learning a different rhythm. Your days may feel unfamiliar, as though the background noise you once lived with has suddenly stopped. In that silence, old thoughts surface, questions you postponed while managing someone else's reality. You may begin to recognize how often you second-guessed your own perceptions, how frequently you overrode your instincts to keep the peace. These realizations are not accusations against your past self. They are acknowledgments of how deeply you adapted to survive. Adaptation is a remarkable skill, but it becomes a liability when it replaces authenticity. God did not separate you to erase your capacity for empathy or flexibility. He separated you to restore proportion. Empathy without boundaries becomes self-erasure. Flexibility without truth becomes contortion. You were bending in ways that compromised your own coherence, and coherence, once lost, takes time to rebuild. As you rebuild, you may feel moments of grief, not always for the person, but for the version of the future you imagined, the hope you invested, the energy you expended believing that understanding would eventually be mutual. Grief is not a sign that the separation was wrong. It is evidence that you loved, that you hoped, that you were sincere. God does not shame sincerity. He protects it when it is in danger of being exploited beyond repair. On the other side of the separation, the narcissistic body continues its confession, often in cycles. There may be brief periods of apparent recovery, bursts of activity or confidence, followed by deeper crashes. This oscillation reflects an inner conflict between denial and acknowledgement. The body swings between attempting to reassert the old identity and succumbing to the truth that the old identity no longer functions. This struggle is exhausting and exhaustion is honest. It strips away the excess, leaving only what is essential. You may be tempted to interpret these cycles as signs that they are changing, or that your return might stabilize things. But stabilization is not transformation. You were a stabilizer once, and that stability came at a cost to you. God did not remove you to make room for you to resume that role later. He removed you because the role itself was harming you and preventing genuine change on their part. There is a subtle cruelty in rescuing someone from the very consequences that might awaken them. It feels kind, but it prolongs the sleep. You were separated so that you would no longer interfere with a process that does not require your involvement. This is not abandonment, it is alignment. Each soul must carry its own truth in its own body. Yours is now free to heal. Healing, however, is not linear. You may experience unexpected fatigue, emotional release, or even physical symptoms as your system recalibrates. This is not regression, it is release. The body lets go of what it no longer needs to hold once safety is established. Tears may come without clear sea, oars. Muscles may relax only to reveal soreness beneath. Sleep may deepen or become irregular as your nervous system learns a new baseline. These are signs of adjustment, not weakness. Contrast this with what you observe from afar. Their body tightens as yours loosens. Their sleep fragments as yours stabilizes. Their health becomes unpredictable as yours finds rhythm. This divergence is not a competition, it is a consequence of direction. You are moving toward truth, they are resisting it. Direction matters more than speed. Even slow movement toward alignment brings relief. Even frantic movement away from it breeds strain. It is important to resist the urge to diagnose or label every sign you observe. You do not need to analyze their decline to validate your separation. The validation lies in your own growing sense of groundedness. When your body begins to feel like a place you can live in again, rather than a battlefield, that is confirmation enough. God often speaks through peace more clearly than through explanation. You may also encounter moments of anger at what you endured, at what you normalized, at how long it took to see clearly. This anger, if acknowledged without judgment, can be instructive. It marks the return of self-respect. It signals that your boundaries are no longer theoretical but embodied. Anger becomes destructive only when it is suppressed or turned inward. When allowed to inform rather than dominate, it sharpens discernment. Discernment is what now replaces vigilance. Vigilance kept you alert to another's moods, another's needs, another's potential reactions. Discernment turns that attention inward and outward simultaneously, allowing you to choose environments, relationships, and commitments that resonate with truth rather than drain it. This shift conserves energy. It restores dignity. It frees the body from constant readiness. The narcissistic body, deprived of the relational dynamics that once sustained it, searches for substitutes. New sources of validation may appear, but they rarely satisfy in the same way. Substitutes lack history. They lack the depth of familiarity that allowed manipulation to feel effortless. As a result, maintaining the full self requires more effort than before. The body pays for this effort. Tension increases, health declines, rest becomes elusive. You are not witnessing punishment, you are witnessing exposure. Exposure is neutral. It simply reveals what is already present. When the inner life is fragmented, exposure manifests as instability. When the inner life is aligned, exposure manifests as peace. Separation accelerates this process by removing the shared illusions that once obscured the truth for both parties. There may be days when you question whether you imagined the harm, whether you exaggerated the imbalance. These doubts often arise when distance softens memory. In such moments, return to the body. Notice how it feels now compared to before. Notice the absence of chronic tension, the return of spontaneous joy, the ability to rest without guilt. Bodies do not lie about safety. They remember what the mind sometimes forgets. God's protection is rarely dramatic in retrospect. It looks obvious only after the danger has passed. You may look back and realize how close you were to losing yourself entirely. how subtly your identity was eroding. Separation halted that erosion. It drew a line that reality could not cross. On one side of that line, truth could begin to heal. On the other, it could only accuse. Accusation feels unbearable to those unprepared to receive it. The body reacts defensively, tightening against an invisible threat. This is why stress-related illnesses often emerge after control is lost. The body, having served as an accomplice to the mind. Denials becomes the site of confrontation. It cannot maintain the lie and remain healthy. One must give way. You may wonder whether compassion requires you to re-engage, to offer understanding or support from a distance. Compassion does not require proximity. It does not demand self-sacrifice beyond wisdom. Sometimes the most compassionate act is non-interference, allowing reality to do its necessary work. God's separation was an act of compassion toward both of you, though it feels harsher to the one who relied on illusion. As time passes, you may find that your identity becomes less defined by what you survived and more by what you are becoming. This transition is subtle. You stop explaining your past to justify your present. You stop rehearsing old conversations in your mind. Your energy redirects toward creation rather than defense. This is the fruit of protection properly received. Protection does not make you small. It gives you room to grow without contortion. It allows your body to inhabit space without apology. It teaches your nervous system that consistency is possible, that peace need not be earned through endurance. These lessons integrate slowly, but they endure. The contrast between your integration and their fragmentation may become more pronounced. This can evoke pity, sadness, or even fear. Fear arises when we misinterpret another's collapse as evidence that connection is dangerous. But the danger was not connection itself, it was distortion. Healthy connection does not demand that one body carry another's truth. God separated you because your body was beginning to carry weight that did not belong to it. He intervened before the damage became irreversible. This intervention was quiet, almost mundane, yet its effects are profound. You are learning what it means to live without constant anticipation of conflict, without the need to manage an other's perception of themselves. In this new landscape, you may feel exposed yourself, not to accusation, but to possibility. Possibility can be intimidating when you have lived in containment. Choice requires responsibility. Freedom demands self-trust. These skills develop with practice. Each time you honor your instincts, each time you decline what drains you, each time you choose rest without justification, you reinforce the alignment that separation made possible. Meanwhile, the other body continues to respond to misalignment with symptoms. These symptoms are messages, not mysteries. They speak of unresolved tension, unintegrated truth, resisted humility. Whether these messages are eventually heard is not for you to decide. Your task is not to interpret their meaning, but to remain faithful to your own. Faithfulness in this context is not adherence to doctrine, but loyalty to reality. It is choosing what is true over what is familiar. God separated you to give you this chance. He saw that familiarity was eroding truth, and truth is what sustains life. As the days unfold, you may notice that even memories lose their emotional charge. What once triggered anxiety now feels distant, almost neutral. This emotional recalibration is another sign of healing. Trauma binds memory to the present, making past threats feel current. Safety releases that binding, allowing memory to take its rightful place as information rather than alarm. On the other side, memory may torment rather than inform. The narcissistic body reacts to reminders of lost control with agitation or despair. Without you to absorb or redirect these reactions, they intensify. This intensification is uncomfortable but necessary. It forces a reckoning that distraction once postponed. You do not need to witness the outcome to know that the separation was purposeful. Purpose does not guarantee immediate resolution. It guarantees alignment with a deeper order that unfolds over time. God's protection is patient. It does not rush the process, it ensures its integrity. And so the movement continues quietly, relentlessly, without spectacle. You move toward coherence. They confront dissonance. Bodies respond accordingly. This is not a moral drama, but a physiological and spiritual reality playing out in real time. You were removed so that your body could rest in truth. They remain with their body to learn what truth demands, when it is no longer avoided, when it presses from within, asking not to be feared or fought, but finally acknowledged, integrated, and lived. A process that begins not with answers, but with discomfort, with signals that cannot be ignored, with a growing realization that what once seemed sustainable is no longer possible, and that something fundamental must shift beneath the surface, even if the shift feels threatening, even if it destabilizes everything that once felt secure, because truth does not negotiate with comfort. It only waits until illusion exhausts itself and the body, weary of carrying lies, begins to insist on a different way of being. And this is where the meaning of the separation finally becomes clear, not as an idea but as a lived reality. God did not remove you to make a point, to win an argument, or to prove who was right. He removed you because life cannot flourish where truth is continuously denied, and He chose to preserve what was still capable of growing. Your body now knows what safety feels like. Your spirit recognizes peace without having to defend it. That is the quiet evidence of divine protection. What happens to them is the inevitable dialogue between a body and a truth. It resisted for too long. What happens to you is an invitation to remain aligned with what restores rather than what drains. You are not meant to return to manage what truth is already addressing. You are meant to continue forward, grounded, awake, and intact, trusting that the same wisdom that separated you will also sustain you, because protection was never about distance alone, but about placing you where reality, peace, and wholeness can finally coexist without resistance.